Hi, hello, and welcome to Cinema Express. My name is Ram Venkat Srikar. Today we have with us producer Shobu Yarlagadda on the show. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello. Very good. Nice to be
Uh,
here.
Great. You are producing TV shows for almost a decade, right? You produced
Right.
Kannada shows, Hindi shows, Oriya shows.
Yeah.
So, was that plunge into filmmaking scary when you started Maryada Ramana? Because the entire structure is different, right?
Correct. So, yeah, like you said, we definitely started off as a television production house, and we have done Telugu, Oriya, Kannada, and then other languages as well. But while we were doing that, we were also working as a line line producers for a few films.
Okay.
So I was line producer, executive producer for Morning Raga, Bobby with Mahesh Babu. And a few other films. So we did get a production experience of handling films as well, big films and small films. So there was a lot of production experience before we got into films directly ourselves, funding and producing ourselves. And Maryada Ramana was a lot more comfortable. And the reason we chose Maryada Ramana because Rajamouli was a friend of ours, and we knew him. I knew him much earlier from his television days as well, and our television days. So there was a lot of comfort level working with him, and that's one of the reasons we approached him to make a film with him. One of our first films was because of the comfort level that we shared with him, shared with Rajmouli. So in that way, Maryada Ramana was a easy stepping stone into the world of movies, actually. Yeah.
So, if you talk about production, other crafts,
Right.
other filmmaking crafts like music or direction or cinematography, a common viewer can discern those crafts. Like he can look at a visual and say that it's a well shot scene. He can listen to the BGM and he can say that, okay, that's a well scored scene, that's very well composed. Or a scene he can look at and say, that's very well directed. What do you think is a well produced film? Like, is there a term like that?
Yeah, definitely. A well-produced film, in my sense, would be the one definitely that doesn't that meets its timelines and budgets, whatever that were originally planned, and takes the least amount of time from all the technicians, cast and crew, least or optimal amount of time.
Right.
And also production also means how it's not just about producing, but how well you present the film into the market. So I always feel that producing a film in the sense of making it to the first copy is the easy part of it. But as a producer, how well can you take it to the theater, take it to the market, get audience to the theaters to watch it, whether it is a theatrical film or if it is a nowadays direct to digital, how well can you get audience to watch it on the platform? I think these also play an important role. So it's a whole life cycle of identifying as a producer. It's about identifying the right script, putting the right team together, getting it done in the optimal time and budgets, and then putting it out in the market in a way that the most number of people get to see it. I think that's if you do all that, I think that makes up for a great production.
Okay. Now, from your answer, I have two questions. First question would be, according to Hollywood standards, the role of a producer is defined by the person who procures the financing, who puts the team together, who puts the whole project together. He is the one who hires the director. He is the one who hires the writers. Do you think we follow the same structure here, or at least as per you, how different is it, or how similar is it?
So there are a couple of traditionally it was not there in Indian cinema. In the traditional old school of making, a producer was predominantly did two things. One was doing the what you said earlier, getting the combination of artists, directors, and story on board, and also funding the project himself. of financing it himself. I mean, he taking the whole risk, whether he borrowed the money or whatever, but he was the one who was fronting the whole money, and he was responsible for the whole money. In Hollywood, in the Hollywood studio, a producer normally does not put in the money. He puts together the whole project and then takes it to a studio who will then fund the project, and then he executes it. So there could be multiple producers who come together. One could have bought the artist, one could have bought the studio on board, one could have bought the actually executing the production and stuff like that. So there is that was more well defined there. Now here it was a little more collapsed in terms of the producer being mainly the guy who was financing the film and taking the risk of the project. But now I think things are changing. I think there's a new school of producers who are working the Hollywood way, where they are working with putting together the project, especially independent producers, and then going to a studio to fund it, and where studios are funding it, and then they have a revenue share or a back end share with the production house. So, but there are still old school of independent producers who produce and put the money also and do everything themselves. So both are happening, but more and more, I think, as the cost of the projects and are increasing, people are leaning towards getting money from the studios and just executing the project per se.
Now, you just spoke about the importance of presenting the film to a viewer, right? And I feel Bahubali is one of the best marketed films. I think it's a case study for marketing. Back when, I remember when the film was launched in 2012, back then when Facebook was a flourishing medium, Bahubali had a Facebook page where even if Mr. Rajamouli and Mr. K.K. Sendilkumar, even if they were locations scouting for locations, we would be getting pictures of them, what's happening. So you always kept the audience in the loop, like, teasing what's happening. How much importance do you give to marketing, and what are all the strategies that you come up with? I'm sure it changes for each film, but can you just tell us about the importance of marketing?
No, like I said from the very beginning itself, I think marketing a film is very, very crucial. It is about getting the message across to the right audience and the right people, and nowadays it's become even more with the advent of OTT and everything, getting people to theaters. It's become even more challenging and even more important to market your film. And I think especially with Bahubali, we realized that at that time that we needed to if we were to just talk about our own market being in Telugu, the film did not require much of a marketing even in those days, because we had a great hero, you had a great director, and I think it's a no-brainer. It's ready for taking. But from day one, our intention was to when we were making a film of this size and this scale, and so much effort is going into producing a film that we all believed in, I felt, and rather we all felt, it was not fair to restrict the film to just take the easy path and just leave it to a small segment of the just the Telugu audience, or just a regional, one specific set of audience, and we should see what can be done to take it as far as possible. And at that time, like you said, Facebook was just coming up. There was a lot of activity on Facebook, and so we felt social media would be the best way to engage in terms of being a very cost-effective way and easier way of reaching a set of audience across India. That was our goal, that to reach a larger audience, especially first step into Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, then Kerala, the South India, and then push it outside of the Vindhyas into the northern part. So I think that's how, with that in mind, we start. One of the things was social media, and one in social media, I think Facebook and then Twitter. At the time, Instagram was not so popular
it wasn't
yet. So I think Facebook was the go-to platform. So we really pushed hard. We had a tie-up with Facebook directly, and then we had several pages that we built and monitored and developed a fan following for that, and drove it. And the idea was that the idea behind that was we know we were doing a lot of work. The idea was that we like you said, keep the audience and the fans, especially the core fans at least, a part of that journey. and let them also see what is at least peek into what is happening in parts, what kind of effort that was going. We're saying it's a large film, it's a big film. When it's a big film, there's a lot of effort. Why not we show the kind of effort that is going on? And that was the idea behind those drops of little information, so that they get a peek into, oh, this is what they mean by when we're saying a lot of work, yeah, or a big project. Yeah.
How much are you involved in the whole process? Like, is everything run by you, or do you have a person quality checking this?
Especially in terms of marketing, I took the lead in terms of marketing, especially for Bahubali, and I used to come up with some thoughts and ideas. Lots of ideas we tried. We used to try every idea that we had, and some worked, some didn't work. And we also had a team at its peak. I think almost 15-20 people, youngsters who were working on different social media activities. The posts and contests and stuff like that, engagements, different kinds of engagements. We had 15-20 people, and we would run it past. Then we had a team that was making the behind the scene videos and stuff like that, capturing behind the scene moments and then editing it and putting it out there, making it interesting and putting it out there. And then we had mainly Rajmouli, who would give us a creative thing into, okay, if this is what we're looking at, how can we make it more engaging or more better, and maybe this is the way we can present it so that it will create a greater impact. So it was a whole teamwork, but it was primarily led by me in the front, and I took charge of the whole driving it, but there was so much that came from everybody else.
Okay, so it's been 5 years since Bahubali released, and you went out to produce 2 more films. I would say just 2 films.
Yeah.
Why are you being too selective? One is Uma Maheshwara Gurupasa, one is Pelli Sandali, both contrasting films. So how do you pick these films, and why restrict yourself to 2? Are you too selective when it comes to it?
Yeah, so we've generally been a little selective. Even before Bahubali, we did not do a lot of films. So one is we look for a comfort level with the director, and we share the. So we do. One is we definitely comfortable with the director, and two, if we like if we really like the script, and we want to make. We're not in a rush to make a lot of films. But at the same time, we want to make films that we enjoy, and not necessarily, I mean, we cannot dictate whether it will be a success in the box office or not. But at least we want to feel that we as producers contributed something to the project, not just putting the money, but something else we brought something else to the table. And also, I think COVID had a lot to play. We would have definitely, post Uma Maheshwara, we would have ideally, given the situation, we would have produced a couple of more, at least films. But I think COVID was a little dampener. We had to pull back a little. So that was one of the reasons as well, COVID. But I think from next year, we have a few interesting stories on the table now. And I think next year we will see some films coming out.
So has COVID influenced the kind of scripts that you would greenlight? Because a lot has changed in the past few years, right? We just don't know which film is going to work, which film won't work. Honestly, with the advent of OTT, even major films like some of my favorite films of this year are Ante Sundaraniki and Virata Parvam, and the trade says they have underperformed. And your own film, Pelli Sandadi, which, let's be honest, did not open to great reviews, but it emerged as one of the surprise hits of last year. So you just don't know what's working. You don't know. It's so arbitrary. You don't know what people are going to buy the ticket for. So in this uncertainty, how do you greenlight scripts?
Yeah, no, it's definitely become a challenge. It is, in fact, even a film like Acharya, which has a solid cast, didn't get opening, so that's a scary thing. And in the northern belt, it's even more scary. I mean, films like Ajay Devgan's films and Akshay Kumar's films are opening to zero. I mean, after the weekend not doing well is something else, but not opening at all is something else. So it's really scary. One common thread you might see is that I think comedies or large spectacle films are doing well. So large action films like RRR or KGF, and where there is a solid spectacle pieces, that is, I think, definitely there. Or else definitely something like very like Jatiratnalu or
DJ
DJ
Tillu.
Tillu. DJ Tillu, which has a lot of humor and which works in a collective audience, where there is, you see it in the audience, you get that thing. Those are definitely working, but it's very difficult to, like I said, say which works. And definitely serious films, message oriented or serious drama, as of now seem to be a little people seem to be reluctant to come out to those kind of films, even if they're very good films. There is a little so, and also I think there has been a over supply of content, especially because of 2 years of COVID. There were a lot of backlog films, and so there's been one big film after another one, and then multiple small films. So there is, I think, a oversaturation of films, and after a few months there is a little more gap, and then people will be more hopefully more open to coming out and seeing. But coming back to your question, I think, definitely we were thinking twice as to how it will open, what is the angle in which people will come to the theater to watch this particular script. Why should they come to the theater, and why not wait a month or so and watch it on OTT?
Exactly.
So those are the questions. Those are the questions we are mulling over while greenlighting the script. And so what we feel is, if there is a collective, there needs to be a collective pull or push among friends or family, saying, hey, let's all go to this movie theater. It's no longer an individual decision, it's a collective thing. A few are excited and say, this weekend let's go, I think this film is coming out, and this Friday let's go and watch this. It's a collective WhatsApp group message, or where a few people decide. It's not just one person. It's a more a collective.
It's an event.
It's a collective. Exactly. It's a collective social event, like going out for a dinner. You can eat at home, but you step out for a dinner once in a while, and then you all, as a friends or a family, you say, okay, let's go out for dinner tonight, or let's go for a drink outside. So it's become like that. And I think, so how do we, in that process, we fit in? We have to see how the marketing and all that fit into that. We have to see, but it's definitely not easy as it is earlier. It's definitely a challenge.
Okay, so now if you look at your experience in production, you started with TV, where the risk is relatively low compared to film, because you are in partnership with this satellite channel that will be paying you something. That revenue model is different. When it comes to streaming, how do you see that risk? Because again, it's a different revenue model, right? It's not theater, where it's not dependent on the number of footfalls. So how do you see that?
So TV, and in terms of business economics and financial economics, TV and streaming are more or less similar, in the sense you get commissioned to produce a product for an X amount. And in TV, it used to be 1 episode a day, 5 episodes a week. It was a daily serial kind of a thing, which we still do. In series, it's now become more contained. It's like 7 episodes, 9 episodes kind of a thing. And but basically you get an X amount, but the quality is much higher. The technical values are much higher. It's almost like producing a film. But the business model is the same, where you get an X amount, you do it under that amount, and you make that margin on that product. But the tech, right from writing to the production, the entire grammar of writing is different. Is not the same as doing a television serial. So it's, but definitely it's it keeps our organization going, people working, and then there is less risk, potential risk, and but also a very capped upside. There is not much on upside as well. So I think I answered that question.
Yes, you did. Has the pandemic, with all the restrictions, of course we are now opening up, now everything has returned to normal, But has it, say, made you more inclined towards more executable projects? Because Anya's tutorial, which I just watched, it felt like an easily executable project, because it's a controlled atmosphere that you're shooting in. It's interiors. The number of actors is and the number of actors involved are limited. So is that a direction that you are willing to take, considering logistics?
Yeah, I think that is definitely one of the considerations. I mean, not all scripts can be that way, but
Parampara is not that way. Again, if you look at it,
Parampara. You mentioned Parampara, right? Parampara is not that way, and we did have a learning from Parampara, to be honest, that too many characters, too many locations is a challenge. In a series kind of an environment where we need to produce a lot more content in a given day. I mean, output per given day is a lot more pressure to shoot in a more number of scenes, more number of use less number of days, and there's a lot of pressure that way. So in that pressure, definitely what we are learning is to do it in a more contained and not just because of COVID, but even just the logistics of production of a series. It would make more sense in terms of timelines and deliverables and everything else to make it as contained as possible in terms of number of characters and the location.
Okay. So I remember a tweet from you just a couple of days before Uma Maheshwara had released on Netflix, that you had tweeted that in 2017, when Bahubali 2, the conclusion came out, the hype needed no introduction, right? It needed no introduction. Right. If the whole country was talking about Bahubali. And you said that Uma Maheshwara was premiering calmly on Netflix with not much fanfare around. Obviously, it did went on to get great reviews. It was one of the best films of that year. Do you think that's the way the business is going to be in the future? Like, there will be these massive theater releases, and then there will be content being generated for OTT. Is that how you see RK Media works and the business?
Yeah, so definitely there is a theatrical model, and there's an OTT model, and more even streaming content that you put out there. You still are required because there's so much streaming content available across multiple platforms. So every week, every platform, there are so many platforms. I mean, I can't even remember.
We are spoiled for choice. We are spoiled
for choice. So in that whole scenario, to get it is not just enough that I put a content out there on Netflix or Amazon Prime or any platform or AHA, and then hope that people will watch it. There's a lot of pressure on the platforms, and because the platforms do take a lot of the burden of marketing the products more than the producer. There is a lot of this thing to get the product noticed as well. By the audience, even if it is on OTT, right? Even if it's a great product, even if it's a thing, so the reviews still matter, that word of mouth still matters, and the promotion still matters. But it is definitely not a large scale like and spread out like movies. So there is a different approach to marketing for a theatrical release and a different approach for marketing towards a OTT release. But still, marketing and word of mouth play a huge role, whether it is theatrical or OTT. And to get noticed and get people watching it.
How do you measure the success of a title on OTT? Because as far as the outsiders are concerned, streamers, they don't reveal the numbers, right? So do you have access to those numbers, or how? No,
most actually none of the streaming platforms reveal their numbers. It's very they're proprietary and something that is considered a business knowledge that they don't want to reveal, except for a very top level kind of information. So I think hit or a success, I think we really ultimately depend on the platform to tell us whether they were happy with the product and whether it did convert into subscriptions for them, additional subscriptions, or they got the anticipated views, and the completion rate, how we started a series, and whether they just stopped at the first episode or they continued to watch all the 6, 7, or 8 episodes, or where did they finish. So all these metrics they do have, but we just get a top level and a sense from the audience, a sense from them on a top level that we are happy, we are not happy.
Okay.
But we don't get in-depth analytics from them. None of them share the in-depth analytics. But if they're happy, then we assume that that the product worked.
Probably
Plus also from the
on.
social media and reviews and stuff, we can gather kind of buzz that is being generated for the product. And nowadays you have like Ormax data that comes out, and other data, whether it is in the top 10 or so in those are the metrics we have to look for. But there is no definite comparative thing that this did X, like a YouTube video. We don't get statistics like a YouTube video.
So a Hindi filmmaker said in a recent interview that he was approached by a streaming platform, like for the streaming platform that he made a series for, and they came up to him and said that there is a dip in viewership at this runtime, there is a high in this runtime. So this is a very hypothetical question. Do you think we will be producers or screenwriters will be asked to churn out content based on the algorithms for streaming platforms? Do you get my question?
Yeah. So definitely there will be there's definitely a lot of information and a lot of analytics that can run through on the data that they capture, and what kind of what is holding, what is not holding. And so that information, you might not have a micro level working of a script. You might not manage it in a micro manner, but on a macro manner, like this artist is probably works very well, or this actor works very well on the OTT, or this kind of setting or this kind of an environment is something that people really look for, or this kind of a genre is something that people are excited. And it can change from platform to platform. There might be platforms where comedy might be working for them, and some might be horror might be working for them, depending on the audience that they have, and the kind of target audience. So I think at the macro level, there will definitely be inputs on what works for them and what doesn't work for them. But on a micro level, I think it gets a little difficult to say that this scene won't work or that scene will work. Is a little too tricky, I feel. But going back, even in television, I remember when we were, even 10 years ago, when we were doing our TV daily soaps, based on the TRPs, and when the TRPs dropped, and when the TRPs peaked, we would get to know which artist, which track. Like you have multiple tracks within the in the daily serial, which track is getting audience and which track people are moving away. So there was an understanding, and we would extend one track, drop one track, kill one artist. So
for TRPs.
For TRPs,
so it's nothing new for you then.
It's just that now there is a lot more data to fall back on.
Right. So what's happening at Arca Media Works? What's being churned out?
Arca, we are working on multiple development work for multiple shows, series for various platforms. We're working across the board, across all national and regional platforms, multiple platforms. We're also working on very fortunate this year. We got few very good scripts that are under development for films as well, feature films as well. So there's a lot of development work happening. I think soon we'll start hopefully casting and announcing some projects.
Okay, lovely. Looking forward to all those announcements, and all the best for everything that you have on your plate. Thank you. It was a lovely chat. Thanks.
Pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.